The cafeteria of the Interstellar Academy was less a place for food and more a living experiment in chaos theory. Hundreds of species crammed into a space designed by someone who clearly thought noise pollution was a cultural enrichment program. Voices overlapped in a dozen languages, utensils clattered against composite trays, and a small explosion came from the table where a species of gas-breathing students had accidentally overcarbonated their lunch. Somewhere overhead, the ventilation system wheezed like a tired dragon, trying to keep up with the smells: fried plankton, spiced asteroid moss, reheated protein bricks, and something that claimed to be pizza but had a suspicious glow around the edges. At one corner table, the usual spectacle was unfolding. A group of Academy bullies, 3 broad-shouldered reptilians and 1 smug avian with feathers so polished you could check your reflection in them, had singled out their favorite target. The alien girl sat with her tray pulled tight to her chest, her long ears twitching downward like wilted leaves. She looked almost human, her features soft and symmetrical, but those ears gave her away, tapering high above her head in delicate curves, lined with fine silver markings that shimmered faintly under the cafeteria lights. "Come on," one of the reptilians hissed, jabbing a claw toward her plate. "Show us how your kind eats scraps. Bet the floor's tastier than whatever slop you got there." The avian snickered, fanning his wings as if to draw more attention. "Yeah, floor seasoning. Best in the galaxy. 5-star flavor." The alien girl pressed her lips together, her fingers trembling as she held her fork. Her gaze flicked across the crowded room. Dozens of students were watching. None moved. The silence around her was not quiet but complicit, a vacuum filled with cowardice. One of the reptilians shoved her tray, tipping a chunk of her meal onto the shining metallic floor. The robotic cleaner that had just passed left the surface gleaming, but not exactly hygienic. The bullies laughed, urging her forward, chanting in broken rhythm. Her ears twitched again. A muscle jumped in her cheek. Slowly, she bent forward. That was the moment a new voice cut across the noise. Wait, hold on. Did I miss the part where floor food became a delicacy? Because my human guidebook forgot that chapter. Heads turned. A human stood there, tray in hand, expression caught between disbelief and a badly disguised grin. He was lanky, his academy uniform rumpled like he'd slept in it, and his hair looked like it had lost a war with both gravity and static electricity. He blinked at the scene, then down at the tray on the floor, then back up at the bullies. Seriously, he added, raising a brow, if you guys are about to open a restaurant, I'm going to need a menu. And maybe an immune booster. A ripple of laughter spread across the room. Not much, just enough to take a little shine off the bully's confidence. The avian sneered, feathers bristling. Stay out of this, human. Doesn't concern you. Doesn't concern me. The human set his tray down on a nearby table, carefully sliding aside what looked like a glowing pudding that had started to hum. Look, I'm new here, so forgive me, but I thought public humiliation wasn't a core subject. Unless it's in the advanced curriculum. You guys taking electives I don't know about? The reptilians exchanged irritated glances. The crowd leaned in, sensing something unusual, a human who apparently didn't understand the most basic rule of academy survival: stay invisible. The human crouched, examining the spilled food. He sniffed it, wrinkled his nose, then grinned up at the girl. You know, back on Earth, we call this a 5-second rule. Technically, it's edible if you get it fast enough. Of course, our floors aren't patrolled by hyper-efficient robots armed with disinfectant lasers, so I'm not sure the science translates. The alien girl blinked at him, her ears twitching in confusion. For the first time in weeks, her lips curved into something dangerously close to a laugh. The avian flared his wings again. You think you're funny? Not really, the human said. But it's cheaper than therapy. More laughter. This time louder. A few students even clapped. The bullies stiffened. One of the reptilians growled, tail lashing against the chair legs. But the human didn't flinch. He reached into his tray, scooped up a glob of mashed potatoes, and poked it with his fork. The potatoes vibrated ominously, wobbling like they had somewhere else to be. He held it up to the bullies. See this? Earth food. Unpredictable. You never know if it's going to explode, crawl away, or demand voting rights. I dare one of you to try it. The crowd roared. The potatoes quivered harder, as if aware of the challenge. The bullies' confidence wavered, their cruelty slipping under the weight of ridicule. The avian snapped his beak, muttered something sharp in his own language, and motioned for the others to leave. With a final glare at the human, they stalked off, tails and feathers bristling, muttering threats about next time. The cafeteria noise swelled again, but now it was filled with laughter, whispers, and stolen glances at the human who had just committed social suicide and somehow turned it into a comedy act. He straightened, brushed his hands on his uniform, and picked up his tray. Then, without asking, he sat down next to the alien girl. "You okay?" he asked, casually spearing a piece of the vibrating potato before it could leap off his plate. Her ears flicked upward, the silver markings glinting. "You are reckless." He shrugged. "Probably. But hey, better reckless than boring." For the first time in her months at the academy, she laughed openly, the sound clear and sharp against the lingering tension. The human grinned, pleased with himself. See? Floor food's not so bad after all. Builds character. And stomach ulcers. She shook her head, still laughing, though her eyes glistened. For the first time, the cafeteria didn't feel like a cage. It felt, just faintly, like the start of something different. The next day, the cafeteria buzzed louder than usual, as though the air recyclers had been replaced with rumor engines. Every table hummed with retellings of the incident from the night before, none of them accurate. At one end, a group of insectoid students claimed the human had fought off the bullies with telekinetic spoons. At another, someone swore the alien girl had used her long ears like whips, cracking them so fast that the bullies fled in terror. By mid-morning, the legend had mutated so badly that a first-year swore lasers had been involved. No one agreed on the details, but everyone agreed on one thing: the human had done something ridiculous, and now he had a reputation. He, of course, had no idea. He shuffled into the cafeteria with his tray balanced precariously, half asleep, his uniform wrinkled in new and exciting ways, hair doing its usual impression of an uncharted nebula. He yawned, set his tray down at a random table, and only then realized every pair of eyes in the room was sneaking glances at him. "Oh good," he muttered to himself, "my lifelong dream of being a lab specimen finally comes true." The alien girl was already there, waiting. Her ears twitched upright as he sat down. She tilted her head, silver markings shimmering faintly, and said, "You survived the night." "Barely," he replied. "My roommate snores like a malfunctioning warp drive. Do you know how hard it is to sleep when it sounds like the universe is collapsing every 30 seconds? Her lips quirked upward. "You are strange." "Thank you," he said. "On Earth, that's practically a compliment. Right up there with 'doesn't smell too bad' and 'only moderately clumsy.'" She laughed, quickly covering her mouth as though unused to the sound escaping. The students at nearby tables leaned closer, curious, pretending to focus on their food but clearly listening. The human leaned back in his chair, balancing it dangerously on two legs. "So, do you always let flying feather dusters and overgrown lizards boss you around, or was yesterday a special performance?" Her ears twitched downward, shame flashing in her eyes. She looked at her tray, poking at the gelatinous cubes that passed for breakfast. "They have targeted me since my arrival. My kind, we are not respected. Too human to be alien, too alien to be human." He dropped his chair back onto four legs with a loud clang, making her jump. "Well, that's stupid. You've got long ears. That's awesome. Built-in satellite reception. Bet you get free galactic radio." Her eyes widened, then sparkled with reluctant amusement. We do not. But perhaps we should. He grinned. See? Marketing opportunity. You could start a business. Earnet, streaming straight from the cosmos. First month free, then you charge them double. She burst into laughter, this time not trying to hide it. A few students nearby snorted, trying and failing to suppress their own chuckles. The bullies, however, were not laughing. At the far end of the cafeteria, the reptilians glared, their tails twitching in annoyance, while the avians' feathers puffed up in indignation. They whispered among themselves, plotting, their eyes locked on the human and the alien girl. The human noticed, of course, but pretended not to. He shoved his fork into something purple that wobbled like it was alive. The blob emitted a faint squeak. He set the fork down carefully. Okay, confession. I don't actually know if this is food or if I just committed murder. The girl leaned closer, inspecting it with mock seriousness. That is Ploran fruit. Native to the moons of Gezer Prime. It is harmless. The fruit squeaked again, louder this time, like it disagreed. Harmless, sure, he said, until it hires a lawyer. Another ripple of laughter spread across the room. The bullies shifted uncomfortably, losing the crowd's attention again. The girl tilted her head, her ears twitching curiously. Why do you make jokes? Because, he said, lowering his voice conspiratorially, if I didn't, I'd probably cry. And tears don't go well with mashed potatoes. They get too salty. She studied him, then smiled softly. Strange, but not unpleasant. They ate in silence for a few moments, though silence at the Interstellar Academy was relative. Someone across the room had just set off what looked like a chain reaction involving sparkling noodles and a portable gravity well. The human pointed at it with his fork. See? That's why I make jokes. The universe is already insane. I'm just keeping up. Her laughter rang out again, clear and defiant. The cafeteria filled with the sound, and for the first time since she had arrived at the academy, she wasn't the butt of the joke. She was part of it, laughing with someone, not at someone. The bullies rose to leave, their retreat obvious, but not before the avian leaned close to his something under his breath as he passed their table. Enjoy it while it lasts, human. You'll regret standing with her. The human raised his cup of fizzy, neon blue drink in a mock toast. Already regretting drinking this, so I'm way ahead of you. The avian's feathers bristled, but he stalked off, the reptilians following. The alien girl stared at him, half horrified, half amused. You are going to make enemies. Probably, he said cheerfully, stuffing a piece of Ploran fruit into his mouth before it squeaked again. But hey, at least I'll have company when they all come after me. You. She blinked, startled. Then her ears tilted upward, silver glowing faintly. Me? Yeah, he said with a grin. Can't fight an entire cafeteria alone. But together? We've got jokes, wobbly potatoes, and satellite ears. Pretty much unbeatable. She laughed again, shaking her head. For the first time, she believed him. The third morning at the academy brought with it the usual chorus of alarms, groans, and one very confused klaxon that went off every time someone in the dormitory pressed the wrong button on the sanitation panel. The human rolled out of bed, nearly stepped on a cleaning drone, and muttered something about the universe needing a snooze button. By the time he stumbled into the cafeteria, tray in hand, he was only half awake but fully aware of the way eyes followed him wherever he went. Great, he muttered, fame without the paycheck. The alien girl was already at their usual table. Her ears flicked upward when she saw him, the silver markings catching the light like they had their own private moon. She gestured to the seat beside her, and he slid in, balancing his tray with the grace of someone destined to spill it any second. You are late, she said. I was busy fighting for my life, he replied. Apparently, Earth toothpaste reacts with Academy water and tries to escape the sink. I barely survived the uprising. She blinked, then laughed. Your world must be very dangerous. Extremely, he said solemnly. We have bread that can break teeth, and politicians that can break entire economies. But toothpaste? That's the real killer. Her laughter carried across the room, soft but distinct. Students nearby leaned closer, pretending to be focused on their meals while eavesdropping. The human noticed but didn't mind. If anything, he seemed to enjoy it. Before they could eat, the reptilian bullies approached, their tails swishing like angry metronomes. The avian strutted beside them, feathers glossy, eyes narrowed. The cafeteria fell into expectant silence. Well, the avian crooned, his voice sharp enough to slice bread. The little human and his pet. The alien girl stiffened, her ears twitching downward. The human leaned back in his chair, folding his arms. Careful, he said. Call me little again and I'll make you eat Earth cafeteria meatloaf. That stuff makes black holes look friendly. A few students snickered. The avian hissed. You think this is a joke? Absolutely, the human said. I tell you a serious answer, but my people have a strict policy against wasting those on bullies. The reptilians growled, claws scraping the table as they leaned in. The human reached into his tray, plucked up another portion of those suspiciously wobbly mashed potatoes, and set them on his fork like ammunition. Careful, he warned. This stuff's volatile. One wrong flick and you'll be wearing an Earth delicacy known as regret surprise. The bullies froze. The students around them burst into laughter, the tension breaking like a snapped string. The avian's feathers puffed up in frustration, but he pulled back, clearly not ready to risk another public humiliation. With a sharp snap of his beak, he gestured for the reptilians to follow, muttering threats as they retreated. The human exhaled, dropping the fork back onto his tray. See? Who needs weapons when you've got potatoes? The alien girl's ears twitched upward, relief mingling with amusement. You are reckless. Probably, he admitted. But admit it, you were a little impressed. Maybe a little, she said, smiling despite herself. They began to eat, the noise of the cafeteria slowly returning to its usual chaos. A group of robotic waiters trundled by, one of them stopping briefly to scan the human's tray before rolling away, muttering in machine code that suspiciously sounded like laughter. The human leaned closer. So, tell me about your world. I need to know what I'm defending you from. Killer toothpaste? Rogue potatoes? Or do your people just battle each other with ear whips? She tilted her head, her ears flicking in amusement. We are peaceful. My people study the stars. We listen. We record. We preserve the music of the cosmos. Music of the cosmos, he repeated. Sounds like a band name. Please tell me you guys sell t-shirts. She laughed, shaking her head. Not t-shirts. But we believe every planet, every star, sings. We hear the frequencies others cannot. We keep them safe, so the songs are never lost. He whistled low. That's beautiful. Also terrifying. Imagine if you tuned into Earth and all you got was commercials for shampoo. She covered her mouth, laughing again. For a moment, her shoulders relaxed, the weight she carried every day easing under his ridiculous humor. Then the cafeteria doors hissed open. A new figure entered, tall and robed in the academy's strictest uniform, an instructor. The chatter died instantly. The instructor's gaze swept the room, pausing on the human and the alien girl. The human swallowed a mouthful of glowing pudding that tasted faintly like battery acid and muttered, "Oh." Parent-teacher conference, but without the parents. The instructor crossed the room, the sound of boots on metal echoing like a countdown. He stopped at their table, eyes narrowing. You too, he said sternly. Office. Now. The alien girl's ears flattened. The human leaned back, grinning nervously. Do we at least get a last meal? Because if so, I vote for anything that doesn't squeak. The cafeteria chuckled, but the instructor didn't smile. He gestured sharply toward the door. The human sighed, standing. Well, he said, offering a hand to the alien girl, shall we go see what fresh horrors await us? Maybe detention, maybe intergalactic exile, maybe just extra math homework. She took his hand, her ears twitching upward again, and together they followed the instructor out of the cafeteria, every eye watching them go. The rumor engines were about to hit overdrive. The instructor's office was a narrow chamber lined with holographic panels that flickered with student records, disciplinary reports, and the occasional glitch where someone's file turned into an advertisement for vacuum-sealed socks. The human tried not to stare too hard at the projections, though he couldn't resist muttering, "If this is the future of paperwork, I vote we go back to trees." The instructor folded his arms behind the desk. His expression was carved from stone, or possibly leftover cafeteria meatloaf. "You two have caused quite a disturbance." The alien girl bowed her head, ears drooping. The human scratched the back of his neck. "Disturbance? Technically, I'd call it entertainment. You should have seen the reviews. Standing ovation, at least 3 stars out of 5. The instructor's eyes narrowed. "This academy is not a stage." "Could have fooled me," the human said. "Every day feels like a drama, except with more explosions in the cafeteria." The alien girl's shoulders tensed. She opened her mouth to apologize, but the instructor raised a hand. "Bullying is not tolerated. Nor is public mockery, even of bullies. Your actions, human, may have escalated tensions." The human leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. "With all due respect, sir, tensions were already at warp speed before I got here. All I did was trip the emergency brake with a joke or two." A faint twitch appeared at the corner of the instructor's mouth, whether irritation or amusement, it was hard to tell. "Nevertheless, you must understand the consequences. This is not Earth. Words have weight. Actions ripple outward." The alien girl whispered, "It was my fault. They." The instructor cut her off. "Silence. You will not blame yourself for cruelty inflicted upon you. But neither will you hide behind others." The human straightened, a spark in his eyes. "She didn't hide. She stood there and took it. I'm the one who barged in with potato-based weaponry." The instructor finally sighed, pressing a button on his desk. A holographic warning glowed in the air between them, "Behavioral review, probationary period initiated." The human squinted at it. "Great. Now my permanent record will say, fought with vegetables. That'll look real professional when I apply for jobs." The instructor dismissed the hologram. "You will both attend a conflict resolution session this afternoon." End of discussion. They were dismissed, the office doors sliding shut behind them. The human let out a long breath. "Well, that went about as well as my last math test. Which means terrible, but not fatal." The alien girl glanced at him, her ears flicking with worry. "Probation is serious." "Yeah," he admitted. "But so is letting jerks think they run the place. Besides, if it gets worse, we'll just start an underground resistance. Code name, Operation Mashed Potato." Her laughter escaped before she could stop it, echoing down the hall. For once, she didn't seem ashamed of the sound. By the time the conflict resolution session began, word had already spread. They were seated in a circular chamber with half a dozen other students, some actual troublemakers, some unlucky bystanders. The mediator was a spherical droid with blinking eyes and a voice that sounded like a bored librarian. "Welcome," the droid intoned. "We will now resolve conflict through dialogue, empathy, and, if necessary, dance off." The human choked on a laugh. "Please tell me that last part isn't real." The droid swiveled an eye toward him. "Statistically, dance-offs resolve 12% of interspecies disputes. Guess I'd better start practicing the moonwalk," he muttered. The alien girl pressed her lips together, struggling not to laugh. The droid proceeded with its lesson, cycling through slides of ideal behavior: respect all species, hands are for helping, and do not launch food as weaponry. The human raised his hand. Question. What if the food launches itself? The droid paused, calculating. Then you must file a hazard report. Good, the human said. Because those potatoes were one twitch away from rebellion. Half the room chuckled. Even the droid's tone brightened slightly as it continued. After 2 hours of forced dialogue and empathy-building scenarios, the session ended with a holographic certificate projected above their heads. Congratulations. You are now conflict resolution champions. The human bowed dramatically. Finally. Something to put on my resume. As they left, the alien girl shook her head. You do not take this seriously. On the contrary, he said. I take you seriously. Everything else? Not so much. Her ears twitched upward, silver markings glowing faintly. Why me? He shrugged. Because everyone else was too busy staring at their own shoes. She fell silent, then smiled softly. For the first time since arriving at the academy, she didn't feel like a shadow. Later that night, as they walked back through the dorm corridors, the human stopped abruptly, pointing at a wall poster that flickered with bright neon letters: Upcoming Interspecies Talent Showcase, sign up now. His grin was immediate. Perfect. We'll show the whole academy your cosmic music thing. Her eyes widened in alarm. No. I cannot. Why not? He asked. They will laugh. They already laugh, he said, but mostly at me. And I'm still here. Trust me, laughter's not the worst sound in the universe. Her ears tilted upward, uncertain but intrigued. For the first time, she imagined the possibility of standing in front of the crowd and letting them hear the songs of her people. And maybe, just maybe, she believed they might actually listen. The talent showcase drew half the academy into the auditorium, the rest watching by holofeed. The stage shimmered with holographic projectors ready to simulate anything from oceans to asteroid fields, and rumor had it one kid was going to juggle miniature black holes. Though the safety officers were already panicking about that one. Backstage, the alien girl stood rigid, her long ears twitching nervously, silver markings dim. The human bounced on his heels beside her, humming loudly and entirely off-key. Stop, she whispered. Can't, he said. This is how I prepare for greatness. By being terrible first. She pressed her hands together, staring at the stage lights. I cannot do this. Yes, you can, he said. Look, worst case scenario, they boo. Then I'll run on stage, trip over something dramatic, and they'll forget all about you. She blinked, then laughed despite herself. That would not help. It always helps, he said. Distraction is my greatest superpower. Well, that and accidentally starting interspecies incidents. The announcer's voice boomed. Next, a performance from Dormitory Sector 7. The human gave her a nudge. That's us. Showtime. Remember, if you faint, I'll catch you. Probably. Unless I faint first. She walked onto the stage, the lights blazing down. The auditorium hushed. Her ears twitched, and for a terrifying heartbeat, she almost fled. But then she saw him in the wings, grinning and giving her a thumbs up like a fool. Something inside her steadied. She closed her eyes. The silver markings along her ears glowed brighter, and a sound filled the air, not a song, but something deeper. A hum that resonated in the bones, a melody pulled from the stars themselves. The holographic projectors responded, the auditorium filling with constellations that swirled around the crowd. Planets spun lazily above their heads, comets streaked across the ceiling, and every note wove a picture of a living cosmos. The human's jaw dropped. Okay, he whispered to himself, that's way cooler than juggling black holes. The audience sat in stunned silence, then slowly, the sound shifted. Students began to smile, eyes wide, and when she finally let the last note fade, the auditorium erupted in applause. She stood frozen, ears quivering, unsure if she should believe it. But then she saw the crowd rising to their feet, cheering, whistling, even the robotic staff clapping their metal hands in sync. She laughed, really laughed, bowing awkwardly, her face glowing with pride and disbelief. Backstage, the human met her with both arms thrown wide. "See? Nailed it. I mean, I was ready to fall on my face if needed, but you didn't even give me the chance." She shook her head, still laughing. "I thought they would mock me." "They almost did," he said, "but then you hit them with cosmic karaoke. Instant win." Word spread faster than light. By the next morning, she wasn't the strange outsider anymore, she was the girl who carried starlight in her voice. Students greeted her in the halls, curious, respectful, even admiring. The bullies tried to reassert themselves once, but the cafeteria erupted into spontaneous applause the moment she entered, drowning out their taunts. Even they realized they had lost the crowd. One afternoon, as they sat together on the academy's rooftop, the human tossed a glowing pebble-sized drone between his hands. "So, how does it feel being famous?" She smiled, her ears flicking upward in amusement. "Strange. But, good. They look at me differently now." "Yeah," he said. "Because you showed them who you really are. Not just the ears. The music." She studied him, her expression softening. "You made me believe I could." He said with a grin. "All I did was throw potatoes and crack bad jokes. You did the hard part." Her laughter rang across the rooftop. Then, more serious, she said, "You are different now, too. When you arrived, you were only reckless. Now you are, reckless with purpose." He blinked. "That sounds almost like a compliment." "It is," she said. "You gave me courage. And maybe found some of your own." He leaned back, watching a shuttle streak across the twilight sky. "Guess that's what happens when you stop staring at your shoes and actually stand up for someone. Turns out it's worth the trouble." They sat in silence, the galaxy stretching endlessly above them. For the first time, neither felt small. They weren't just a human and an alien girl anymore, they were friends, allies, something stronger than either could have been alone. Finally, the human stretched and stood. "Come on. Let's get food before the potatoes gain sentience and start plotting revenge." Her ears twitched, silver glowing faintly. "Perhaps they already have." He froze. "Don't joke about that." She laughed, following him back inside, their voices mingling as the doors slid shut. In the vast academy where 1,000 species struggled to belong, two unlikely companions had carved out their place. Not with power. Not with fear. But with courage, laughter, and the kind of friendship that could turn even the coldest stars into songs.